All right, let's dive right into a question that's as fascinating as it is, let's be honest, a little controversial. It's something you've probably thought about while watching the Olympics or maybe the NBA Finals. So, what's the deal? Why do certain groups seem to just dominate in specific sports? Is it all about culture? Is there some biology at play? Or is it something else entirely? To really get into it, let me start with a fact that might just surprise you. 1980. Think about that for a second. That's the last time a non-black athlete even qualified for the men's 100-meter Olympic final. For more than 40 years, every single finalist has been a sprinter of West African descent. It's exactly this kind of stark pattern that we're here to understand. Okay, so before we jump to asking why this happens, we have to ask a more basic question first. Is this even a real thing? Is this dominance something we can actually measure, or is it just a perception? Well, let's take a look at the actual data. Let's just take two of the biggest sports in America. Now, black people make up about 13% of the US population. But get this, they're about 75% of all players in the NBA. And over in the NFL, it's around 66%. I mean, that level of overrepresentation is just undeniable. But hold on, because this pattern is definitely not universal, not even close. You look at a sport like figure skating, and the demographics totally flip. White athletes make up about 73% of the competitors there. So what does that tell us? It shows that this dominance thing is incredibly specific to certain sports. And hey, this isn't just some American thing. We see these patterns all over the globe. Think about long-distance running. For decades, it's been dominated by East African athletes. Or how about table tennis, where Asian athletes have basically ruled the sport since the 1950s? The takeaway here is pretty clear, right? These patterns are real, they're global, and they are super, super specific. Okay, so if the patterns are real, what's causing them? Well, the first major explanation we have to look at is our environment. You know, the nurture side of the nature versus nurture debate. Let's dig into how culture, cost, and community can come together to create these athletic powerhouses. A huge piece of this puzzle is just simple access. Think about it. To play basketball, what do you need? A ball and a hoop. You can find that in a ton of neighborhoods. Now, compare that to, say, snow skiing. To become an elite skier, you need pricey gear, specialized training, and, oh yeah, you need mountains. It's pretty obvious how economics and geography can create massive talent pipelines for some sports and just huge brick walls for others. And this leads to this really powerful, self-reinforcing cycle. It's like a snowball effect. It starts when a community really, really values a certain sport. So what happens? More kids are encouraged to play it from a young age. That makes the talent pool deeper and deeper, which in turn leads to more success on the big stage. And that success creates the heroes and the role models for the next generation. And boom, the loop just starts all over again. And you really can't overstate the impact of those role models. It's massive. A perfect example is Simone Biles. When she became the face of gymnastics, participation among young black girls in the sport just skyrocketed. Why? Because seeing someone who looks like you achieve something that great, it makes that dream feel attainable. Inspiration is an absolutely huge catalyst. All right, now we have to address the most controversial part of this whole puzzle, genetics. This is where we shift from nurture over to nature. And look, we're going to tread really carefully here, focusing only on what the scientific research actually suggests in this highly debated field. So to even understand the genetic argument, we got to talk about something called fast-twitch muscle fibers. The easiest way to think of them is like the drag racers of your body. They give you that incredible, explosive power right off the line, but they burn out fast. They are absolutely perfect for sprinting. So, a leading theory out there proposes that a higher proportion of these fast-twitch fibers is found, on average, in populations of West African descent. This kind of genetic predisposition could provide a biological advantage in sports that rely on pure, explosive speed. However, and this is a really, really important however, this is not a settled scientific fact, not by a long shot. The relationship between genetics, race, and athletic ability is unbelievably complex. There's actually far more genetic diversity within so-called racial groups than there is between them. And remember, just because two things are correlated doesn't mean one causes the other. And you know, it's not just about muscle fibers. There are other theories too. Some suggest that the long, slim limbs common in East African runners offer a biomechanical advantage that just makes them more efficient.
Then there's this wild field called epigenetics, which suggests that our environment can actually switch certain genes on or off over generations. The point is, genetics isn't one simple factor. It's a super complex scientific picture that's still developing.
So, where does that leave us? We've looked at the data, we've talked about the cultural forces, and we've waded into the genetic theories. Let's try to bring it all together for the final takeaway.
The most honest conclusion here is that there is no simple single answer. Athletic dominance isn't just nature or nurture. It's a deeply intertwined combination of genetic predispositions, cultural emphasis, economic access, and pure opportunity. It's the intersection of all of these things that creates champion.
And this highlights a final crucial point. The very same traits that make a world-class marathoner, like a really slim build, would be a huge disadvantage for an NFL lineman. So this isn't about general superiority. It's about having highly specialized adaptations for very, very specific tasks.
All of this brings us to one last thought-provoking question. I mean, making sports accessible to every single kid is obviously a noble goal, but should we actively try to engineer the demographic outcomes of competitions? It's a really complicated question with no easy answer, and it gets to the very heart of what we value in sports. Is it merit? Is it diversity? Or is it simply the pursuit of human excellence?